Hey guys, it's Courtney from Willow's Bloom, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about the Taurus Full Moon, which is happening on Halloween on October 31st at 8 degrees of Taurus. So, this is called a blue moon because it's the second full moon in a month, which is a pretty rare event. So, I don't, I, I want to have good news for you guys, but I kind of feel like this full moon is going to bring up some negative emotions for us, given certain alignments. And so I just kind of wanted to walk you through what you can expect. And of course, I'm going to go through each of the rising signs. So let's just give a little context about what's going on. We still are going to be having Mercury and Mars moving retrograde. So, since these are two personal planets, meaning that they are close to the earth and they affect us on a personal level, we kind of might feel like our energy is a little bit off. And we've been feeling this for a little while. Mars has been retrograde for a while. It's going to be moving or stationing direct in November. So we're going to start getting a little bit of reprieve. But yeah, with Mercury and Mars moving retrograde, it's a lot of introspection. It's a lot of lowering of our vitality in a way, in that we don't necessarily have all the energy to complete our goals. So you might be feeling like this already, like you need more time to rest, like you need more time to analyze what's been going on. And with the last couple of moons, we've been having Mercury opposing Uranus. This brings us a flash of insight that happened with the Aries full moon. So we might have had new ideas about how to approach our life. Then with the Libra new moon, we had that same position, but Mercury was retrograde. And that's where I was kind of saying, all right, I think we're starting to have those new ideas be reworked and refined, because with Mercury moving retrograde, it's like the ideas didn't come out of the box all ready to go. They came out as these little seeds that needed to change and grow and sprout, and they needed more love and attention from us. And what I'm kind of feeling from this full moon in Taurus is that this is typically a manifestation moon, because Taurus is ruling over the physical material world. It rules over the earth, over money. And so when I think about a moon here, especially a full moon, which shows results, and Taurus, which shows physical results, I think like, okay, we're starting to like see the physical results. But I actually feel like that's the problem, is that the things that we want to have manifested over these last 6 months haven't worked out the way that we wanted them to. And so I feel like this is the point in time where the things that we've been working on, we're like a little bit frustrated that they haven't turned out. So we had this new idea about how we can make it change, but then Mercury went retrograde saying, yeah, but this idea isn't ready yet. This idea needs more work. And we're like, but we've already been working. We've been working so hard. We've been doing this shit for 6 months and nothing has really, really come out of it like we wanted it to. And then we get to this full moon in Taurus, and I feel like it's leading us to this feeling of discomfort because we're not where we want to be. It's making us feel agitated, specifically because this full moon is conjunct Uranus. And Uranus has been moving through Taurus for a while, so we're already a little bit used to this energy. But still, with this full moon pretty much exactly conjunct Uranus is a really big deal. It's basically saying that we're probably experiencing this internal unrest with our current situation. And I think what it's doing is bringing up a lot of negative thought patterns, because we haven't quite made it to where we want, and because this new idea isn't going to flourish anytime soon and be that thing that we want it to be. And so it's like we're getting in this kind of more negative thought spiral than usual. And it could, of course, be different for everyone. And I will go into the different rising signs about how it will affect you. But that's the general feeling that I'm getting from this is that there's going to be a little bit of internal tension and some stuff to work through in regards to relationships. So let me address first this first card that I pulled, because I just pulled some cards just around the general meaning of this full moon. And the first card that I got was the Rabbit. And one of the things that's really distinct about the rabbit is it has a very nervous and fearful energy. And that is a really great descriptor of what we're going through in the world right now. I think a lot of people are living in fear. You know, we're coming up on these elections. We all have strong opinions about things and that's going on in the world right now. And we're fearful of what the future brings. This last 6 months hasn't worked out the way that we wanted. The new idea isn't strong enough to lean on. It's just a little seed that needs to be given lots of love and attention. And we're looking ahead and we're thinking, oh my gosh, when are we going to get a break? And so I feel like that is this rabbit energy of fearing the future, fearing the current reality of what's going on. And what's interesting about this rabbit is that you will manifest more negativity in your life when you are living in fear. That's really what the card was saying. Be careful of your thoughts. And this is going to be really important because in mid-November, we're going to experience another Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And this has happened twice already. And this is the very last time this year it's going to happen. So it's somewhat rare. And essentially, Jupiter is expanding things and Pluto is destroying things. So when they combine, we can tend to have a little bit of chaos. So for the last 2 times we've had it, which was in April and I believe late June or July, I can't remember the exact date, but the last 2 times that we've had it, there have been peaks or spikes in the coronavirus. And besides that, there's just been a lot of chaos happening among people. And it makes sense that this is going to happen again in mid-November, going with elections. We could also probably see another spike in the virus. So I just wanted to warn you guys that while that does typically associate with the time of upheaval, it also is associated with a time of master manifesting, which means that wherever we're focusing our attention around mid-November, it is going to expand and it's going to become a lot larger. And so this rabbit energy, I feel like, is kind of trying to say, all right, let's go ahead and get this negativity and these thoughts out now at this full moon. Let's purge this and renew ourselves, because in November, we need to have our wits about us for what is coming up. We cannot sit here and fear the future. We need to purge it with the moon and let it go. Because again, as November approaches, we are going to start creating our new future with our thoughts. And it's going to be so, so important to keep a positive outlook on life, on things, on our direction as a country, as a culture, as a society. And the other thing about living in fear is that it doesn't have any positive benefits in your life. When we have fear, we can start to feel like, or we can hold on to it because we feel like we are experiencing a productive emotion, like as if that fear is going to keep us safe, but it's not. Fear actually doesn't contribute to our life whatsoever. In fact, it attracts the negativity and it clouds our judgment, because whenever we make decisions out of fear, they're never in our best interest. And it can even lower our immune system. And so I feel like this full moon, again, is telling us, okay, let's purge that fear now. Let's experience it. It's Halloween. What better time of the year to be afraid than this time? Just let it out. Experience it and let it go, because we cannot carry that with us into the future. Okay, so I kind of want to talk about these cards, but all right, I'll just keep talking about the full moon. Okay, so something else that's interesting that I was reading up on Astrology King, I recommend checking out his website. This full moon in Taurus is going to be taking place over the spot in the sky that is the fixed star of Hamal. So it's in the constellation of Taurus and it's a fixed star. And so apparently what this star represents is like aggression and like violence. So just keep that in mind. There could be something surfacing like that specifically. I don't know. I kind of feel like it could be happening in regards to politics or relationships. So just be careful with your aggression. especially with Mars retrograde, we're kind of like processing a lot of our internal rage. So if you feel like you've been really angry the last like month and a half, or like have inexplicable bursts of rage, just know that that's really normal, and we're trying to process that and like move through some feelings that we've had come up in our relationships that might bring about the negativity. But anyway, so this full moon is again happening right on this fixed star. And so this fixed star could bring about the rage, but it could also bring about success, but only if we work with a lot of patience, and if we work slowly and steadily towards our goals. And that's kind of what I've been saying for the last lots of moons, that this is not a fast year. This is a 4-year numerology, which is about building everything brick by brick. So I think this is kind of just illustrating that even though we feel this restlessness with this conjunction to Uranus saying we want results, we want things to change, and we want them to change now. What this is saying, by placing all that energy right on top of this fixed star, is it's saying you can only get these long-lasting results when you stick to the daily action steps that will lead you there. You cannot, right now, you cannot have this lightning bolt of Uranus come and disrupt your life and create that change like that. That's not what this year is about. There's so much energy moving through Capricorn telling us that we will get results, but we have to put in the sweat equity. And so I feel like Uranus is the internal energy of us like saying, okay, yeah, we get it, but like we want a change and we want to feel better. And we're really frustrated with our current situation. And this fixed star is saying, there's 2 ways you can go about this. You can have this manifest through aggression, through anger that this is happening to us, or you can put in the work, put your nose down, and recognize that you are the master manifester of your own life. And I also pulled the co-creation card in reverse. And this is really saying that we need to take responsibility for what we are creating in this world. And that means that we're not going to have a victim mentality about what is happening. So instead of having this victim mentality, like this is happening to us, I can't believe this, I'm so angry about what's happening, instead of going that route, how can we have more agency and realize that our thoughts and our actions every single day are creating our reality? Of course, there are things that are external influences that we don't have control over. But what this is saying is that there is so much that we do have control over, and we need to take responsibility for what that is in our lives. So just think about the ways in which you are playing a victim in your life. And I've had to think about this a lot lately because, sometimes when things are not great in life, it's easy to turn it on yourself and be like, why is this happening to me? But that doesn't serve you in the end. If you can tell yourself or realize that a lot of what is existing in your life is due to your own choices, it gives you that power back. And so that's really what I'm seeing with this card, is that, and this in this time in November, is that it's giving us a chance to take our power back, even though the situation is really uncomfortable. We do have the agency to make changes in our life. Okay, so what else is going on? Okay, so what's interesting, we're also having the sun, which is obviously opposing the moon, so it's directly across from the moon. And that's what makes it light up to be a full moon. The sun is conjunct Juno. So Juno is the asteroid of relationships and of our devotion. And so what I feel like this is bringing into the mix is it's asking us what we are devoting ourselves to. How are we spending our energy? And is it creating the life that we want? And if it is a partner, how are you showing up in that relationship? Because the fixed star Hamal also relates to partnerships. It also can bring favorable benefits to marriages, and Juno is the marriage asteroid. So there's again this link, interestingly enough, with this full moon to marriage, to partnership. So I'm not sure how that will manifest for you personally, but it could highlight some issues to be worked through in that area of your life, and it could bring you greater harmony in your relationships, and greater benefits in your marriage, your partnership. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on in the sky in general. We are currently during this full moon, we are going to be experiencing Mercury squaring Saturn exactly, and then loosely squaring Pluto and very loosely squaring Jupiter. So this negativity in our thought process is essentially what Saturn square Mercury does, because Mercury is our mind and Saturn just brings a sense of realism to everything. But with realism can come negativity and like cynicism. And so I feel like as a collective for this full moon, we're going to not only be experiencing this fear of the future, but I think that this fear of the future is stemming from this cynicism or this negative outlook on life in general. So if you feel like you're getting caught in these like negative thought loops, just remember that is why I pulled this card, and I'm talking about manifesting and what your thoughts can produce. So allow yourself to think those things, but then release it at this full moon and like let it go. Because if we keep recycling these negative thoughts, that is when it's going to lead us to actually create this lack in our life. So another card that I pulled that relates to this is the generosity card in reverse. And this card, when in reverse, is really symbolizing a fear that we don't have the abundance that we're looking for, that our needs are not going to be met, that we are not going to be supported by the universe in the ways that we need, whether that's through love and relationships, or if it's through money or safety, security, whatever it is. A lot of us are going to be having these thoughts that our needs are not going to be met. And when this card is reversed, it's essentially saying that we need to approach life with more abundant mindset. And the best way to do that is by giving what we lack. So if you feel like you don't have enough friends who are giving you love and support, go out into the world and give that to the friends that you have, or to the people that you know, or to random people. If you feel like you need money, go out and give money to other people right now. Support people with your time and your energy. And so I think that this is essentially what can help us shift our mindset, and realizing that we are the co-creators. This is the next step to create the right reality that we actually want. Okay. So we're also going to be experiencing Venus in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries. So this is an interesting one. Venus is the planet of money, of love, of relationships, of us, viewing the world through beautiful eyes. And an opposition is always a tense discussion. And it's happening with Chiron, which already can bring about a lot of healing, but healing through challenges, healing through painful experiences, or even like things that are triggered from our past to be coming to the surface to be healed. So that's always uncomfortable. And so you might be experiencing kind of like this purge around relationships, around money, or things that you value, like the beauty in the world. There's probably going to be a bit coming to the surface that needs to be healed around that for everyone during this full moon. So I pulled the Kuan Yin card. This is one of my favorite goddesses. She helped me get through numerous breakups, and she is the goddess of unconditional love. This card says compassion. And so really what I feel like it's saying for us is that we need to approach ourselves with unconditional love, compassion, and understanding during this time. So we might be feeling quite a bit of negativity. We might be healing through a lot, having these challenging situations come up to be purged through. And the only way that we can truly move into this, move through it, and move on is through this self-love, through this compassion. And so, so really what I want to get at for this message, for this full moon, is that I want us to experience this negativity and any challenges. And I want us to purge it and let it go and not keep it with us as we move into November. And so this is the energy that I want us to take into November, is the self-love that we need to heal through this process. And so I hope that this makes sense for you guys. If you have any questions, of course, comment below. And if you want personal reading, you can always check me out at willowsboom.com. And now we're going to get into the readings for all of the rising signs. Okay, so for Scorpio risings, I'm sorry I forgot to include you in the original video. And it's kind of crazy because the sun is in your sign. So this full moon in Taurus is actually going to be a bigger deal for you than it is for other people. Because as I mentioned, the sun is in your sign, which is, if this is your rising sign, it's going to be in the first house. So any changes that are going to be taking place with this full moon are going to affect you on your identity level as well as your relationship level, because the sun is illuminating the moon, which is directly opposite it in the 7th house of relationships. So you guys are going to be changing your way of navigating relationships, and you're going to be moving through some negative thought processes and healing those in order to have a deeper transformation. So let me show you which cards I've pulled first. So I pulled the Fish card, and this is interesting because I didn't really see something specifically highlighting the Fish energy. The Fish is this energy of wanting to keep moving and not necessarily having a direct focus. And I feel like that could be something that's been going on maybe in your relationships. It's really common right now for a lot of us with Mercury. It's been in Libra for a while, so you could have this feeling of being indecisive, like you didn't know what to do about a certain issue, so you kind of just kept moving and you never addressed it. And what I'm seeing with the 7 of Pentacles is this need to ground and invest your time and energy into one thing and realize that it's a long-term investment. So it's very opposite of the Fish energy, and it's asking you to make this change in yourself to focus and stay direct, and again, invest your time and energy into that thing that you feel calls your attention or your passion. That could be a relationship with somebody, that could be a project, that could be an idea. Whatever that is, I think it's going to need more of your energy moving forward after this full moon. So as I mentioned, this full moon is going to be in your 7th house of relationships. It's conjunct Uranus. So you guys can definitely expect some changes in your relationships, although I do feel like it's going to be leading you to some positive changes, because I also pulled the King of Cups, and this is what made me think that in regards to your relationships, it's going to be something optimistic or positive, because the King of Cups is really about balancing the head and the heart. And so I think for Scorpios, you guys can be quite intense. You can be extremely invested and all into your relationships. And I think that this card is kind of saying maybe there needs to be more of a balance there. Maybe there needs to be some time for you to take a step back and assess your boundaries and assess the way that you're showing up and the other person is showing up in a relationship. And if you're not in a relationship, then looking at your past relationships or the way that you are in your friendships and assessing how you can basically use your head and your heart together in order to create greater balance and equilibrium. I know we've been struggling with this Libra energy this month because of all these changes, because of this turmoil that we've been going through in astrology and just, globally with what's going on in the world. And so I think that this kind of balance might be challenging for you, but I think that's kind of what this full moon is doing, is it's illuminating what is wrong in your relationships or what needs fixing in order to be more balanced. And it's asking you to conjoin the head and the heart in order to achieve that balance. And again, with this focusing energy, I think that this is going to be really important as well, because as I mentioned, the sun is in your first house and the sun is actually conjunct Juno. I don't know if I've mentioned this with the other people, but specifically with you, it really drawed my attention to it because Juno is an asteroid of marriage, but it's also an asteroid of devotion, where we spend a lot of focus and dedication and time on something. And it's in your sign. And again, it's conjunct the sun. So it's really calling you to embody this Juno energy within your work. What is something that you can throw yourself into and be more of that Scorpio energy? Because Scorpios don't have a problem working hard. They don't have a problem being ambitious. But I think there might have been things in life that have made you feel like you can't quite decide. And I feel like this full moon is saying, okay, this is going to give you insight to help you decide on those things. And it's going to give you insight about how to adjust and adapt your relationship to then support you pursuing those goals or pursuing those things that you've been thinking of. You guys have also had Mercury retrograde moving through the 12th house, and this is making a square to Saturn directly, like an exact square, and a looser square to Pluto and a super loose square to Jupiter, which is in your 3rd house in Libra. Or sorry, Mercury's in Libra. Those other planets are obviously in Capricorn. They've been there all year. So having Mercury retrograde move through your 12th house, this is interesting because I think it can definitely bring up a lot to the surface. The 12th house is the house of the unconscious, the things that are hidden. The 8th house and the 12th house is where I typically see people run into challenges in their life because they need to deal with shadows. They need to do the shadow work, essentially. It's a lot in these houses that are buried. And as a Scorpio rising, you are probably relatively used to transformation and dealing with some of these buried things at different points in your life. This is an energy that you are more, I guess, in alignment with or understand on a core level. And so that's kind of what you're going through right now. You are being asked to examine your limiting beliefs. You're being asked to examine some things that are holding you back in your thoughts and in your mind. Because whenever we have the devil reversed, it's like you're on the verge or the precipice of having this huge breakthrough. But you have to first release all of the things that you've grown attached to, because the devil can represent our attachment to things that keep us comfortable, but that aren't good for us. And so I feel like once you can start to realize in your life what is holding you back, the indecision can be one of those things. Boundary issues in relationships or problems in relationships, those can be another thing. Or it could just be your beliefs about yourself and what is possible for you. There is something that you are holding on to keep yourself safe, that you need to break free from, that you need to release from. And then once you do that, you're going to have a new beginning. So that's part of what I think is really important at this full moon, besides just highlighting those general themes, is giving you more insight about what you need to release so that you can start anew. And I got the new beginnings card and I got the butterfly card. So these are both cards of deep transformations. These are both cards of ending one cycle and entering a new cycle. And if you know anything about a butterfly, when it enters as a caterpillar into the cocoon, its whole body has to dissolve. So there is a total and complete surrender of what it used to be in order to become something greater, in order to fly, in order to thrive. And I feel like for you guys, you have to let go of some of these mentalities. Maybe the fish mentality of always moving, always changing, or maybe it's I don't know what exactly you have to let go of personally. I can't say, but all I know is that there's something that needs to be let go of, and you know what that is. And there might be some negativity that comes up because when Mercury is squaring Saturn, that can bring up negative thoughts. It's not so easy to just become this chrysalis and dissolve and become a butterfly. That is a painful process. That's an uncomfortable process. And so there are going to be some negative thoughts that come up, and it's really great for you to take this time alone to release those thoughts, because with Mercury and Venus moving through your 12th house, there's a lot of deep internal work. There's a lot of work that is taking place on the spiritual realm that you can't quite see. And the great thing about the 12th house is that it's a wonderful time to separate yourself, to be in isolation in order for that spiritual work to take place. So if you feel the need to do that, then absolutely do that. You guys also have Venus moving through the 12th house, and this is making an opposition to Chiron in the 6th for you guys. So again, there is some stuff that is being reworked in regards to your relationships. Whenever a planet moves all the way around all of the houses and then comes back to the first, it is undergoing a deep metamorphosis, just like this butterfly. So right now, Venus is moving through your 12th. So the 12th is the very last house before it reemerges in the first. So right now it's going through this metamorphosis period where it's going through a spiritual reevaluation, where things are coming to the surface to be checked, to be adjusted, especially because it's making an opposition to Chiron. So Chiron in the 6th is kind of saying, I think, first of all, there is an element of self-worth and confidence that's coming up in regards to relationships that's being asked to be dealt with, because Chiron brings wounds from the past like our childhood, past lives. And so some of those issues around those topics can surface in your relationships to be dealt with, especially in regards to the 12th house, which is again about things from the past that we've buried. So it's a lot of things from the past that are coming up right now. And then on top of that, the 6th house is also about our daily routines and the way that we take care of ourselves. So I think one of the ways that you can sort of help yourself at this time is to focus on establishing a strong routine, a healthy routine, and focus on caring for your physical body. That's going to help the healing process and allow you to sort of purge and release some of these things that you've maybe been holding on to, because it's challenging to process them and transform through them. So I also pulled the Empress card in reverse, and this is one of the best cards in the deck, but reverse is not so great. So reverse is kind of showing that there might have been like this creative block that you guys are experiencing. You might feel like they mentioned something about codependence when I was reading the description of the card in reverse, and I don't know that necessarily resonates. If it does with you, then take that and run with it. But for me, I felt like it was more of this creative block. And I really see that coming through because you've been having Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter moving through your 3rd house. Your 3rd house is your conscious mind. So to me, the most creative houses on a chart are the 5th and the 3rd house. So you've been having Saturn and Pluto, these really deep, heavy, intense energies moving through that area of your life. I feel like that can kind of cause a blockage in your creativity. It can make things not flow as easily. It's also transforming your mindset about life. So it's almost like your brain doesn't have like the extra energy to dispose for creativity because it's already doing so many deep internal processes to transform and become this butterfly and start this new beginning that I mentioned. So if you're feeling kind of like there's a creative block, I totally understand. Also with Venus moving to the 12th, Venus can contribute to our creativity and to our artistic expression. And the 12th house, whenever a planet is transiting through there, it's kind of muted and it doesn't have its full self-expression. And so I do see that this could be a time where maybe you feel like you're not at your fullest creatively. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that if that's the case, because I know that as we move into 2021, and even as Venus moves into your 1st house, things are going to start to ease up on that and feel a little bit better. I think really what this energy is coming through to say is that there's a need to work on the things that are limiting you, your limiting beliefs, the things that are holding you back, the things from the past. And as you start to work through them, I think the new life will come in for your relationships. The new life will come in for your creativity, and things will start to flow again. And you won't feel like this fish that needs to swim on its own. You'll feel like things are flowing naturally and evolving in a way that feels comfortable for you, moving enough but not too much, like an avoidance, like which the fish is. So I hope that this is helpful. Remember to really dedicate yourself to something. Use that Juno energy, the Seven of Pentacles energy. And if there are changes coming through in your relationships, allow them to change. You are the butterfly this month. You are the one who's starting a new beginning. This is taking place in your 1st and 7th house. You are changing and your relationships are changing. So just allow it to happen. Enjoy the ride and appreciate that this Devil card is in reverse, and allow yourself to release anything that you've been holding on to. So good luck.